So, what I'm about to tell you is appalling. There's no other word for it. After Tuesday's speech, Donald Trump left the stage and was walking out of the House chamber. He passed Chief Justice John Roberts, and Donald Trump said this. Go.
Howard, thank you again. Thank you again. Won't forget.
So good. Yeah, it's good.
Okay, so what was he talking about? Thank you again. I'll never forget it. Nobody knows. Oh, that didn't stop the Trump haters, did it? You couldn't possibly have known what he's talking about. There's no context provided at all. Yet, here they go. Roll it.
Thank you again. Thank you again. Won't forget. Donald Trump understands that John Roberts is his guy, who sprang him and saved him from prosecution with his ruling on presidential immunity, which ultimately paved the way for Trump to be elected president again.
And there was a moment there that really stopped my heart. And that was when Trump shook hands with the members of the Supreme Court who were there. And those were Kavanaugh, Kagan, Barrett, and Justice Roberts. He said to Justice Roberts, thank you again, won't forget it. Now, what do you think he was referring to? Something like
I thought he helped him get into the men's room.
Well, no, the immunity that he basically passed on.
Okay, so we know who those people are. They have freedom of speech, but the companies that employ them are responsible for what they are saying on national television. Keep that in mind. So Trump heard about this, and here's how he reacted on social media. Quote, I understand they are going crazy asking what it is that I was thanking Justice Roberts for. They never called my office to ask, of course. But if they had, I would have told these sleazebag journalists that I thanked him for swearing me in on Inauguration Day and doing a really good job in so doing. The fake news never quits. All right, there it is. Now, the Trump haters goes, oh, I don't believe Trump. Okay, fine. You don't have to believe what you want to believe, and we all know that is going on. But there is an explanation. And both Hayes and Behar have no backup, none, no context for what they said. They just said it because they hate Trump. So ABC News, that's The View, and NBC News, they've let MSNBC go, but they still control, what is said on the air, should suspend those two people, Hayes and Behar, right? Because of their irresponsible and dishonest remarks. Should, won't. So that's Comcast and Disney. And this is what? The 10,000th time this has happened? And you still have about 2 million people watching The View. And Hayes, he barely gets, I crushed that man every single day for 20 years. Crushed him. Head to head. He never had anything. He's a hater. Okay. The reason that I'm making a big deal out of this is because it influences the culture. The good news is the left-wing media is finished in America. It's done. All right, ABC is laying off 200 people. I'll tell you about that later. But it's not coming back. And the reason is because the ideology that they're pushing, CNN, MSNBC, and the networks, it's not acceptable for the majority of Americans. Simply, it's just a numbers game. Okay? So they're done. More importantly, much more importantly, the Democratic Party itself is finished for the short term. It'll come back someday. But now it's done. And that happened on Tuesday night as well. So President Trump, as all presidents do, brought in a number of people to highlight in his speech. Laken Riley, the college student in Georgia, was murdered, her mother and sister. A 13-year-old African-American boy had cancer, who wanted to be a law enforcement agent. He was given Secret Service credentials. A young woman who was competing against a trans man who smashed a volleyball against her head and gave her brain damage. All of these people. Okay. The Democrats in the chamber did not applaud for any of them. None of them. And you saw that on your television screen while the Republicans stood up and cheered all of these people on. The Democrats just sat there. You're a 13-year-old cancer victim who gets credentials for the Secret Service. You can't applaud for that? Something seriously wrong in that party. And we all know there is. There's no leadership in the party. There's no guidance in the party. I mean, these are people now who don't want peace negotiations in Ukraine. They don't want that. Don't want any anti-trans sports laws. They're fine with the girl getting smashed in the head. Okay? Don't want deportation of undocumented migrants. Don't want that. All right? And it goes on and on and on and on. They don't want to keep criminals in jail, generally speaking. They are fine with every kind of destructive behavior you can think of. And the majority of Americans, even those who don't follow politics and aren't very ideological, they're going, no, we don't want this. And that Democratic Party has not pivoted at all. And they are done, finished. So here's what I said last night on News Nation. Go. What happened was Trump hatred. And that's what the headline is of the speech last night. When you are hating someone, you lose all perspective. You lose all feeling. You're consumed. And I wrote a book that's going to be out in September called Confronting Evil. And these people who did all these terrible things, they all had one thing in common. They hated. They were just haters across the board. That's what you saw in that chamber last night. You saw it from Green. I thought Al Green was the guy who was saying, love can keep us together, or what, that great soul song. And all of a sudden, this guy from Texas looked like he should be starring in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. He's up there, he's flailing around. And I'm going, wait, do you think you're helping your party? Do you think anybody at home watching this likes this in the House of Representatives? But he couldn't help it because he hates Trump so much. And that's across the board in the Democratic Party. So Donald Trump has destroyed temporarily the Democratic Party passively because they hate him so much. Overreach. One more thing about our analysis. We said that Stephen Miller might have written a Trump speech. And the Trump people got to me today and said, Ross Worthington, I don't know him, Tony Dolan and Vince Haley, three of them put together that speech. They all work, obviously, for Donald Trump. So I wanted to mention that. And that's the memo.